Welcome to Meet the Candidates. My name's Eric Crump. I'm with the Homewood-Flossmoor Chronicle. Today we're talking with Patrick McAneney, who's running for the Homewood Board of Trustees.
How are you?
Patrick, welcome. I'm doing great. Thanks for being here. And we want to start with the basic question first, which is, why did you decide to run for trustee position?
12 to 15 years in running for trustee, the Village of Homewood. When I was with the Village of Glenwood, it had come up, but just never came to fruition. So when I had recently left the Village of Homewood as Assistant Director of Public Works and went to the Park District, the opportunity came up where I could run for trustee. I've been in the community my whole life. Certainly, current administration is doing a lot of things, but I would just like to be able to have a voice, have an opinion, kind of have a little insight of what's going on in town, and just see where I could help and where I could offer some of my knowledge and between being in town my whole life and then also approximately 30 years of public works experience.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what in your experience would be useful on the board and help you make decisions and bring a different perspective.
Certainly infrastructure has been a major issue when I first started in Homewood back in '89 and is still going on. It's very costly, but most recently has been a mandated lead line service replacement by the EPA, and that's going to be a very costly venture and I think a very challenging venture, something that I have knowledge about. They were talking about it when I was in Homewood and been with the EPA, worked for some consultants, so just have a little bit of insight as to what it will take to do that, and I think what will be realistic and how to achieve that. That's going to be best for residents, the village, the cost of it, and still meet the requirements of what the EPA is looking for.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge challenge, I know. Are there other infrastructure issues or projects that you think need to be
Well, I think that they're doing a fine job given
list?
Monies that they have to do. If they're doing water main replacement, sanitary sewer lining, certainly third edition over by Waltz has been an issue. It was brought up years ago of what to do about backyard sewers and water mains there, something that they're going to need to look at, especially now with EPA forcing lead line service replacement, how that would be done. But just being a voice and helping, and just kind of maybe helping others understand that aren't familiar with infrastructure, the costs, the needs, and a lot of people see oh, my road is falling apart and I want that taken care of. Well, you don't see the water main that breaks or the sewer that falls apart because that's hidden underground, but that's really a priority. I mean, it's nice to drive on a smooth road, but if your infrastructure is failing, then it's nice to address that first and then take care of the surface that you see.
Explaining public works. Explaining public works, how it works, is actually a difficult thing. It's very complicated, I know, and it's most of us don't get it. So
certainly,
you can
bring some of that to the table.
Understanding
yes.
of the system, right? Yeah. Okay. And speaking of communicating things like that to the residents, one issue I was hoping we could talk about is the relationship between the village, especially the village board, and the residents, and how communication works. I mean, that's something that comes up occasionally, is that a lot of stuff gets done, and then people don't feel like they're in the loop, and they and so on. Do you have ideas for how the board could help improve that connection between residents and the village government?
I think that the most known thing is cow meetings. I mean, there are committee of the whole meetings there where things come up that are going to be on the agenda coming up. They're not on the agenda and voted on that night, so that gives people, a sense where they can come and talk and find out about what's going on. And I also think that a lot of people maybe say they want to find out what's going on, but don't take the initiative. I mean, certainly there's plenty of information out on Homewood's Facebook page, and they do, a lot of reach out for things happening, but I think that some stuff, yes, it happens. I mean, new businesses going on, or just now the Spornet building that's going to be an apartment building. I think that if there was just to be a little more clear and transparent about that, and I know that cow meetings have been brought up before and aren't well received or weren't well received. But I think that that could be a good opportunity to allow more public input. And certainly there can be a voice, but it's also, sometimes not realistic of what people think, and then when it really comes down to what needs to be done, but at least it's an opportunity to come hear what's happening before, like I said, it's on the agenda and it's voted, and then it's done.
Yeah, people get in the conversation more. Right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
But again, I mean, you can stop in and you can come to the meeting, but if it's something that's, on the agenda, then it's not going to be discussed.
Yeah.
So that's all.
One of the areas where I hear more of people feeling like they didn't really have much of a say is in economic development projects, bringing in new businesses. Obviously, when there's a deal in the works, the village can't talk about them very much. But that is an important thing to Homewood. It's a high priority for the current administration
Certainly.
to bring in new business. What's your view on economic development generally? Are we going in the right direction, or are there things that you think the village could do differently, or different ways to prioritize?
I'll be perfectly honest with you, Eric. This is where not knowing, there's all kinds of technicalities, legalities of what you can and can't do as a village. And as just a resident, I might say, oh, well, why are they doing this? Well, I don't know all the technicalities and legalities and what really is our ability to not get in trouble, not get sued. So I would wait to answer that until if I was elected and find out a little bit more of the backside of it. But certainly, I think that they're doing a very good job of bringing businesses in. Right now more than ever, it's harder to get brick and mortar stores, and we have some vacancies in downtown Homewood, but there's always stuff in the works, and I know that Rich is out there constantly trying to get stuff in. Yeah. But certainly, I think that some of it, yes, comes up or kind of skirts by, but it can also be that taking the initiative as just a resident to go and really find out what's going on. But if I get in April, then we'll talk again, and maybe I can give you a little more insight into my opinion of economic development.
Terrific. I know you're also concerned about the small businesses that we already have and how to best support them, help them thrive. And I know the village does, in fact, do some things there. It works with the Homewood Business Association, for instance. But I didn't know if there were other ideas you had for helping the existing businesses, especially in the downtown and Southgate area, thrive.
To thrive.
Yeah.
I think that, there's a big push of trying to shop local, and I mean, we try and shop local whenever possible and just communicating that. But I think that as a society now, I can get this at the click of a button instead of going, and sometimes it takes a little more effort. But, just talking with them and outreach, trying to help them with what they need, what they have going on. But yes, certainly the HBA is phenomenal in what they do in supporting the businesses. And they have events, and we try and get people into downtown. But again, I would believe that there's a good amount of communication with the small businesses on a regular basis of what's happening, and if they have ideas of what we could possibly do to try and help them. But again, not sitting on that board and having that inside track, I don't have a definitive answer.
Okay. Yeah. So some of it's learning curve once
Correct.
you get into the job, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Which again is exactly why I would like to try as a trustee and get in and learn the ins and outs and what it is, and again the legalities and things that you can and can't do, and you think that all of this is in your control. Well, maybe it's really not. You're limited. Even though you're the village board, you're still limited to what really you can do and what you can say yes and no to.
Yeah. And then part of the job you mentioned, communicating and educating residents, explaining what you can and can't do.
Correct.
Might be a way you can help residents better understand how the system
Correct.
works.
And also, like I said, it's also they need to take the initiative to want to. It's real easy to speak or put a post out and that this isn't happening or I'm not getting this information, but have you gone to a meeting? Have you inquired?
That is a good question about the engagement. I think about this too, about how we can reach people or get them to read us more.
Right.
What do you think is a strategy for making village board meetings or making engagement generally more attractive to people? Because you're right, a lot of times people just, the boardrooms aren't full for meetings and so on. I mean, what could the village do that would bring in more people?
Well, it goes back to, and just my opinion, but I think that a lot of the residents do feel like, well, I'm going to go and essentially and unfortunately waste my time because this is what is on the slate and this is what's going to happen. So, could be right, could be wrong, but if there was a meeting prior to where we could discuss things and have a little bit more community input on what was going to be happening, then that might change. I don't know. It hasn't happened yet, so if it happens and it does, then great. If you get cow meetings and nothing really changes, okay, then, but at least you tried. So I think that's really it, is just from people that I've talked to and what I've heard and, other people, is just the fact that there's no point in going because I'm going to hear what's going to happen, but I'm not going to really have an opinion because it's already done.
Okay. Well, we've talked so far about business, infrastructure, communication, education. Are there other issues that we haven't really addressed that are on your mind and you think need to be priorities if you're elected?
Well, I think that, and as I mentioned before, the legalities, technicalities, but, as I said, I've been in town all my life, and now just kind of going through some of the areas, property maintenance is a struggle, and unfortunately a lot of properties in town are rental properties, and that's difficult in dealing with landlords, and the building department is, overwhelmed with items going on and code enforcement, and I think they're doing a very good job, but I just wonder if there's not some, something stronger that we could do, because I hate when I walk by and I see various cars in driveways behind houses, just things falling apart. And again, I know that they get cited for so many things, and then, okay, then you're trying to take them to court, and if they don't show, then it's just a delay or an extension. And, but that's just something, because Homewood is a beautiful community, but it also takes a lot to maintain that. And when things start being allowed for whatever reason, then it can kind of get out of control, and then it doesn't look so nice. And then same thing with dealing with downtown businesses, making sure that their landlords are keeping their businesses up as far as appearance goes, exterior, interior. Southgate, unfortunately the one side where Thomas Photography is and Pearson's Bakery used to be, I believe there's one or two condemned units in that plaza. But, again, as a village, you're trying to deal with the landlord and where are they located. And, so sometimes I believe your hands are tied. But it's just something where, again, Homewood's a beautiful place, has a bunch of great things to offer and a bunch of people that love it, and just trying to keep it looking as good as it can.
Yeah. It's a big task. Yeah, you're right. It takes a lot of work to keep it beautiful.
Right. And like I said, it's not, hey, if I get elected, I'm going to come in and take care of, no. I mean, and I'm not saying that about anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I get elected, I'm going to come in and learn and, try and communicate and be open and listen to people. But it's you don't, wave your wand in the first 4 years and, okay, well, this is all done. Here we go. So, and I think a lot of people think like, I'm going to come in and I'm going to do A, B, and C. And I think that coming in and just getting an understanding of local government from that side is an accomplishment first, and then you really know what you're talking about.
The basis to make things change.
Correct.
Right? All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Patrick.
Certainly.
We appreciate hearing from you. And
I appreciate you taking time to listen to me.
All right. Best of luck on April 1st.
Thank you.
Thanks.